For a long time, Space Sim players were used to compromise. You either bought whatever was available, adapted to its weaknesses, and made it work, or you spent a lot of time chasing something closer to what you actually wanted. That's part of what makes the Thrustmaster SOL-Rs interesting. They're clearly not trying to be a generic flight stick that just happens to work for space games. These were designed to compete with other HOSAS setups, and you can tell that pretty quickly. But before we get into it, I do want to apologize both to you guys and to Thrustmaster for how long this review took to come out. Life got busy, work piled up, the production of this got significantly delayed, and I wanted enough time with these to give you a proper review instead of rushing one out too early. However, going forward, I will be pushing harder to get more gear review videos out in a timely manner. Hopefully Thrustmaster, Wind Control, and Virpil are understanding and still willing to work with me. Anyway, after spending real time with the SOL-Rs and Star Citizen, I think I've landed pretty clearly on what these sticks do well, where they fall short, and what I think Thrustmaster could do to make them more compelling to a wider audience. The SOL-Rs are Thrustmaster's dedicated space sim sticks. They're designed around a HOSAS setup, so hands-on stick and stick, and they come with a feature set that clearly targets that kind of player. You've got ambidextrous design, a very sci-fi look, a lot of buttons on both the grip and the base, RGB lighting, Hall effect sensors, and a traditional ball and spring design. And right away, one of the clearest positives here is that Thrustmaster actually put thought into making these feel like a real space sim product. They don't look like a repurposed aviation stick or something designed for a different genre and pushed into this one. They look like they were built for this niche from the start. The off-white, black, and orange-gold styling gives them a distinct identity, and the RGB is actually quite useful if you like visually grouping controls on the base. The build quality is also extremely solid. The base feels planted. You've got a metal plate on the bottom, rubber pads, points for hard mounting to whatever your heart desires, and overall they don't feel flimsy when you put your hands on them. The grips are lighter than some people may expect, but they still feel sturdy and well put together. The underside switch and ambidextrous conversion options are also a nice touch, and make the left and right hand setup easier to live with. Where the SOL-Rs probably make their strongest case, though, is in the control layout. There are a lot of inputs here, and more importantly, they make sense for this kind of use. On the grip, you've got a dual stage trigger, mini stick, multiple hat switches, thumb buttons, and a mouse wheel. Then on the base, you've got those soft touch buttons, toggles, an encoder, and mode controls. For Star Citizen especially, that matters. The more functions you can keep directly under your hands, the more useful a HOSAS setup becomes, and the base controls give you room to spread things out in a way that feels natural once you've spent more time with them. That's really where these sticks may shine over others. If you're someone who values having a lot of direct access controls and likes more functionality built into the base without needing extra panels, the SOL-Rs do offer something useful here. In actual use, the SOL-Rs feel really good. In Star Citizen, they're precise. Strafing feels smooth, tracking feels consistent, and smaller inputs are easy to manage. The trigger feel here is excellent, which is something Thrustmaster has usually done pretty well, and that continues here. Comfort-wise, they made sure to make it easier to use over longer sessions, and the button and hat feel is generally solid, which matters because it allows you to have your primary controls within reach. Whether you're flying combat, making fine corrections, or just trying to stay smooth through more demanding movement, these sticks feel responsive and reliable. If you've made it this far and you enjoy grounded reviews like this, make sure to subscribe. That way you don't miss on future Star Citizen coverage, gear reviews, and everything else I've got coming. Now this leads us to the gimbal discussion, because this is where the SOL-Rs are both capable and slightly limited. They use a ball and spring gimbal design with Hall effect sensors. For some people that's immediately going to sound dated, and I don't think that tells the whole story. The sticks are still accurate, they still perform extremely well, and one of the advantages of this kind of design is that it gives you a naturally flatter return profile, which can work nicely in a space sim where sustained directional input is common. So I don't think the gimbal is the problem by itself. The out-of-the-box feel is good enough that most people will probably enjoy flying with them. But where I do think Thrustmaster left some room on the table is in adjustability. A more modern cam and spring design would have opened the door to more tuning flexibility and more personalization in how the sticks feel. That's not the same thing as saying the SOL-Rs feel bad out of the box, because they don't. The default feel is good, but if the default feel is not exactly what you want, there isn't a lot of room to tailor it. And that becomes more noticeable the longer you use them. The mini stick is another example. It works, and I didn't run into any major problems with it, but there's a little bit of a dead zone there. Not enough to ruin the experience, but enough that it's worth pointing out. For me though, the biggest drawback is the left stick behavior when it comes to sustained forward thrust. On a setup where you can tune or dampen the left stick more aggressively, you can push it forward and make sustained forward input feel a lot more natural. With the SOL-Rs, you don't have that option. There's no damper setup that lets the stick hold forward position the way some people may want for this style of flying. So if you want constant forward thrust, you're either holding that position manually or relying on cruise control in-game. And for me, that isn't ideal. And just to be clear, I'm not talking about the little slider on the base. I use that for something like a speed limiter. The issue for me is the stick itself, and the lack of tuning options around how it behaves. That may not bother everyone equally. Some people are going to adapt to it quickly, and some may already fly in a way where it barely matters. But for me, it's part of the experience that most noticeably makes me think Thrustmaster could refine this design further. Outside of that, the overall in-game experience is still extremely strong. For combat, the SOL-Rs feel stable and accurate. For more general use, the extra controls help a lot. There's a lot you can do here without reaching back to the keyboard nearly as often, whether it's mining, scanning, or even salvage. If you spend a lot of time in Star Citizen and want a setup with a lot more direct access to functions, these definitely have something to offer. So once you get past the first impressions and actual use, the next question becomes where these sit in the broader market. And that's where the conversation gets a bit more nuanced. Because on their own, the SOL-Rs have a lot going for them. The layout is strong, the build is solid, the precision is there. They feel purposeful, and they clearly were made with space sim players in mind. But once you start looking at the category around them, some of the missing flexibility becomes harder to ignore. That's especially true once the price enters the picture. At around $389 US for the pair, the SOL-Rs are in a space where details matter a lot. Not just whether the sticks are good, but whether they feel complete enough in their current form to stand out more strongly against other competitors. It's not that the SOL-Rs fail, they don't. It's that they feel very close to being a more broadly compelling option, and a few design decisions keep them from fully getting there. There's a lot here that works. It's got great precision, great control layout, the base functionality is useful, and the RGB is functional, and the build quality is extremely solid. But I do think that Thrustmaster could have made some changes that would have made these easier for more people to seriously consider. More tuning flexibility would help. A different approach to how the left stick can handle sustained forward input would help a lot. Changes in that direction would make the whole package feel more adaptable, more complete, and more competitive. That to me is really the heart of it. The SOL-Rs are a solid first serious push at a dedicated space sim setup from Thrustmaster. They're capable, well-built, and clearly designed with HOSAS players in mind. But they also leave some room for improvement in ways that matter once you've spent enough time with them. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you used the SOL-Rs yet? If you have, what stood out the most to you once you actually got them on your desk? If you haven't used them, what matters more to you in a setup like this? Out-of-the-box feel, adjustability, button layout, or long-term session comfort? And if Thrustmaster does revise their design later, what is the one change you'd most want them to make? If this review helped you out and you want to support the channel beyond subscribing, consider becoming a channel member. It helps support the creation of these videos, and members get access to extra perks like exclusive Discord channels, shoutouts in every video, and more. As always, thanks for watching. Fly safe, pilots, and I'll see you in the verse. Havoc out.